With the end of the NEL supposedly coming within the next few chapters or so, and the overall excitement for what will happen in the U20 World Cup arc, I stated how in my chapter 294 review I would try and predict the events of this entire next arc, bringing my take on who will be our main formation of 11 for BLUELOCK, who will be the captain of the team, who BLUELOCK's opponents will be, as well as what challenges they may hold, and finally the match results themselves to see if BLUELOCK will win the entire U20 World Cup, finally giving Japan its first ever Football World Cup win. I am excited to bring you this video and loads more in the future when you subscribe to the channel and turn notifications on, as you will never miss an upload of mine ever again. Also be sure to hit that like button down below if you're excited to see BLUELOCK's U20 World Cup arc, and finally click the link in the description to join my BLUELOCK Discord server, the New Egoist Geeks. So let's start the video off with the formation best suited to build BLUELOCK's team. Ego has many more tools at its disposal thanks to characters now being more skilled and experienced in positions other than playing as strikers. Not to mention we have very obvious picks for who will go where, considering that they are going to give BLUELOCK the best chance they have in winning this entire thing. They seemed very competent in using the 4-5-1 formation that they utilise against the Japan U20 team, but I believe some slight adjustments can be made considering the stronger defensive backline BLUELOCK now has to offer. So I went ahead and selected the 4-2-3-1 formation. It provides solidarity through the middle, and when combined with flexibility up front, it allows BLUELOCK to attack, safe in the knowledge that they are not exposing themselves at the back. With the right squad of quality players, it is easy to adapt the formation mid-match depending on circumstances to 4-3-3, 4-4-2, or the former used formation of 4-5-1. We need this kind of versatility, especially considering we have characters like Isagi who would be placed closer upfield who has extremely good defensive feats. Not to mention BLUELOCK will have an extremely strong core to provide additional support with different types of offensive schemes, especially considering BLUELOCK can mould their formation into featuring more centre forwards, as that is the most common kind of player BLUELOCK holds, making space for their many characters upfield. Speaking of characters, let's go through the formation starting with the back, and anyone I don't mention in this formation is on the bench to be subbed on in replacement of certain characters which I will mention later on. This team lineup also comes from my perspective of which characters will make it into the top 23 from my top 23 players value video, so keep that in mind whilst hearing this, especially considering I'm writing this script 5 days before the next chapter leaks drop, so I am not aware of who made it and who hasn't at the time of making this, if values are revealed in chapter 295. Gagamaro will obviously be our goalkeeper, as one of the most physically capable to hold down this position, not only having experience but further growing interest in this field. For centre backs, I've given these slots to IQ and RU, as two of the strongest components of Uber's defence during the NEL aside from Lorenzo. Their defensive stats shown to be above the likes of Nico and Konagami, and I couldn't be sure of what Raichu would have to offer at this point, so IQ and RU both can make use of their physicalities, both strong and tall, to snatch away the ball from opposing teams' offensive pushes. Next we move on to our back wings, and I will be placing the likes of Corona on the right and Bachara on the left. Now I don't think these are the most realistic choices, but both have a good reason to be on either side of the pitch, considering with a combination of speed and amazing dribbling stats, along with their capabilities to get the ball upfield, either by using quick pass exchanges or long shot passes that fall to the forwards of the team. Plus they can play as defensive components that can pinch incoming players when IQ and RU are marking them down. For a defensive midfielder, it was a tough choice, but I came down to picking between two characters, Ryo and Kurasu. I could put either one of these characters to represent this position, considering aspects of their skill set are often interchangeable, and they both have access to metavision as well. But since Ryo's skill set is arguably much larger, it would be best to give him the spot, especially considering not only his ability on defense would be very helpful, but his offensive build with the use of his passes and scoring potential makes him an unexpected option for goals when BLUELOCK is in need of an unpredictable play. For centre midfield, I've given this to Hyori because, duh, he's the best passer within the BLUELOCK facility who's been compared to the likes of Sai Itoshi for his passing ability. Not to mention, he is a very competent dribbler and a sadist who seeks to only pass to the world's best striker, which could make for some eager competition trying to evolve to appeal best to Hyori. Now we move on to our offensive line. Our attacking midfielder will be Isagi Yoichi. I know the argument will be put up against me saying how Isagi shouldn't be placed in a midfielding position, as he's proved himself to be a striker on so many occasions during the NEL, but simply put, you have to give him this position to challenge him to get goals against not only the opposing team, but his own allies. I mean, these are the core values of Isagi's character that makes him grow immensely, plus we need to give Isagi a better chance at going back on defense, as he's a super reliable aspect on all areas of the field. On the left wing we have Chigiri, replicating that very same golden zone he discovered and continues continue to utilize for getting goals whilst playing for Manshine, and undoubtedly his speed will be an extremely important aspect in getting past opposing teams' defense. And on the other wing we have Nagi once again, giving him that very same area where he was placed in Manshine, now with a much more competitive environment for goals. Since our main centre forward ain't gonna spoon feed our genius, because we have Rin Itoshi leading the front of the pack. As the most individually capable Blue Lock player, with his Destruction Flow State and Predator's Eye that can be used in a range of different manners, Rin will of course be the predominant ace of the Blue Lock's team formation. That's our main lineup, and now we have the subs for each player depending on what strategies need to be changed to better fit the situation. More specifically, when this formation has to adapt to a different style of play, such as one of their linked formations. For Gagamaru substitution we have Fukaku, for IQ and Ryu substitutions we have Raichi and Kunigami, for Kurina's substitution I've given this spot to either Kiora or Otoya, and for Bachelor's substitution I've given this spot to either Yukimiya or Otoya once again. For Rei's substitute I of course already spoke of it earlier, as Karasu is the only other character I can see holding down the fort in the defensive midfield. For midfield I had quite a few things to consider, but overall decided the ability on Metavision is too good to let pass me by, so in the situation where Hiri is off the pitch, Reo can move up to play as the midfielder if he is still on, or if Reo is off, Nico will be the substitution for midfielder, considering how his defense stats are worse than his passing stats, but he has the versatility and experience to get the ball from the opposing team. Isagi's replacement will be extremely hard to find, basing it off of the characters we have left, so I just left it up to who could possibly be challenging for a goal or snatching up the kill like a hyena, which is why I picked Sendo for this slot. For left wing, I considered either the likes of Yukimiya or even a wild one with Zantetsu, considering their accessibility for speed will be very helpful in replacing Chigiri when needed. And for right wing, I gave this spot to Shido, as he will likely have a great time collaborating with the likes of Isagi and Hori for some devilish opportunities, as he is fully capable of making it to the goal box with his off-the-ball movements. And finally, to replace Rin on centre forward, we will either have Burū or Isagi, considering they are the next two contenders for the strongest and most reliable strikers we have in Blue Lock. With all the substitutions now done, that should clarify my top 23, because now I've covered every single player I also believe would make it through the NEL. Let me know what you guys think of this formation, the player selections and their substitutions in the comments down below. Next is deciding who the captain will be. We have a few strong contenders, but we have to consider the possibility of certain characters not being on the pitch for the starting lineup. For example, Karasu is a popular choice, but considering how Reo is in the starting lineup I crafted, Karasu would instead be a substitute captain, therefore leaving Reo to be the captain, which honestly is not a bad shout. Another character who would be fitting for this role is the former captain of Blue Lock, Rin Itoshi. Demonstrating Blue Lock's ace player and by proxy best individual player as the captain is a scary sight to see as opposing teams' defense. Not to mention the sheer thought of Rin being a striker as the brother of Sai Itoshi would put his name quite clearly on the map as a force to be reckoned with. And speaking of former captains, we also have Oliver IQ, whose captain accolades should not be understated. Of course, if IQ does get subbed off, Raichi wouldn't have to be the captain if he comes on. That honor could very well go to someone else, but Raichi is also someone I believe who would make a good captain, considering he's very vocal in nature and his willingness to put everything aside for his team more and more as time has gone on in the series, which has made him one of the most reliable players on Blue Lock's side. Isagi is our final contender to consider, as we include his strategies, offensive and defensive awareness, and vision of the field. He can provide support in any area and give out demands like it's nobody's business. However, that very well could put even more of a target on his back, and considering he's already a lesser player in terms of physicality standards, he could easily be shut off with this title he now needed to uphold, not only as a captain, but as Blue Lock's hero and NEL champion. I believe my decision came down to two aspects. One is experience and the other is reliability in giving good calls. So as our main captain, I of course wanted the reins to fall to Oliver Aiku. It may not be as likely considering he is no longer the benchmark for players or even defenders, but he still holds a massive amount of experience and trust with his teammates to perform at his best, and when in the heat of the moment, he always handles the pressure immensely well. For his substitutional captain, I gave this title to Isagi. It provokes less of a target on him to not be an initial captain, but who could deny Isagi's constant plan of attack and collaboration to make his teammates evolve with his ability? Not to mention, he's adaptive for a reason. He will not only scout opposing team pushes, but find a way past defensive lines by either working or using his teammates to score consistently performing goals. And that is all for my Blue Lock team related predictions. Of course, this is all my own opinion, so let me know who you all think is the best captain for BLUELOCK's U20 team. We can now move on to the predictions of the bracket and matches of the U20 World Cup arc. In the real life World Cup, there's a qualifying stage where there's 4 teams per table who have matches against each other, and the top 2 teams who win in their table through winning games are eligible to play in the brackets for the World Cup. I believe it to be only necessary for BLUELOCK to face a major team in this table that they lose against to rematch in the bracket for the quarter or semi-finals, and that team I believe will be Argentina. In real life, Argentina's playing style is well defined and based on being dominant in transitional phases, from being able to quickly interchange from defensive to offensive lineup and vice versa. They adapt to the opposition, but ensure their team never just becomes entirely centered around their center forward, which brings in my prediction of a new Gen 11 winger to represent this team as the biggest challenge for BLUELOCK's team to face. This winger will be on the right side, which will lead him to face off against the likes of Chigiri, Bachida, and their substitutions Otoya and Zantetsu. This will play into the minds of the BLUELOCK's wingers that they still need a lot of work before they can become reliable components. For example, Chigiri, just because he has a competent goal formula doesn't mean his desire of not passing when he can score will go unpunished. As for Bachida, his lack of ability of gaining back the ball will be the reason why Argentina will concede so many goals, making use of his weakness as a player who lacks the ball to dribble with. I predict the score of this match will end at 3-4, with Argentina's new Gen 11 winger scoring 2 out of the 4 goals for the team, so it would put an emphasis on how solidly built the rest of the team is comparatively, which would give BLUELOCK not only a team to overcome in terms of certain individual aspects, but a team coordination view, as BLUELOCK is still a team constructed of predominantly goal-driven strikers at heart. Of course, with that, I believe BLUELOCK will come second in their table, winning against their other opponents to then be entered into the knockout stage round of 16, where BLUELOCK has to win 4 matches to be crowned as new Gen 11 World Cup winners. In the first match, I see BLUELOCK facing against Netherlands with the team that holds a new Gen 11 goalkeeper, making this team not only a solid defensive team, but a goalkeeper that BLUELOCK will actually struggle to get past, considering this goalkeeper's level of instincts and possession of metavision. Could be a fun match that leads to more creative approaches when trying to score goals, which can bring on the likes of Nagi and Shido to collaborate. Next round, I predict BLUELOCK will once again face Argentina to get their win over the team with the use of what BLUELOCK has learned with their mistakes from the previous encounter. The semi-finals leaves a lot to be expected. Could we see the likes of BLUELOCK face familiar players or a whole new team? Well, considering the angle of how they're building up Real, I can expect BLUELOCK to face off against Spain, therefore seeing the likes of Sai and possibly Kaiser once again, but the challenge is now 2 new Gen 11 players on the same team. Sai has yet to show his full capabilities, and with a reliable striker like Kaiser, this dominant duo can bring BLUELOCK to its knees, at least until BLUELOCK overcome the new Gen 11 wall to come out with a close win at 3-2, leaving us with the final match between our BLUELOCK Japan U20 team to face against France, where they shall face the likes of Loki, Charles, and maybe another massive hurdle for our cast to overcome. And this is the team I believe will have BLUELOCK completely beat, making France the winners with the score of 2-3 of the entire U20 World Cup. This leaves a perfect setup for the actual World Cup that of course doesn't hold the U20 age requirement, and could create a possible training arc between the end of the U20 tournament and the start of the actual World Cup arc, where we could see BLUELOCK once again be challenged by FIFA to see if Ego is truly worthy of coaching Japan's World Cup team to lead them to certain victory, as the goal this whole time was never in regards to the U20 World Cup. That was a mere stepping stone. The real World Cup is the one in the series that has been worked towards, and we will see the culmination of Japan's efforts and maybe a change in aspirations for a certain new Gen 11 player to finally join Japan in their best chance at winning for the first time ever. Anywho, that was my video in predicting the events of the U20 World Cup arc far too soon. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and until next time, peace.